Welcome back to Soflex Math. Today's lesson is dealing with multiples. So multiples we're also going to use with fractions. We have something else later on called least common multiple that we will also be using. So multiples are basically skip counting. So you're going to take a number and just count. It's kind of like your multiplication chart, 7, 14, 21, and so on. So when we look here at our chart, we have the number 7. Okay, so we're going to do something called a multiples tower, and I'll explain what it is because it'll have many different uses later on. So we're just going to count by 7s vertically, which means up and down. 21, 28. So see how they're just like your facts. And with multiples, you usually have to list like the first 5. You don't have to. They'll go forever. So there's no way to list all the multiples because they would just keep going as far as you could ever count. So I'm just going to make it to the top of the page till I run out of room. Okay, so the multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and so on. And if you look here, all it really is 7 times 1, 7 times 2, 7 times 3. So it's really just all of your multiplication facts. But the nice thing about this for fact families, and we can use these later on for multiplying or dividing, let's say we just pick one out. So 35, so all I have to do is go to the bottom of my chart. I started with a 7. So 7 times, and I just count up how high I went. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I went up 5 rows, 7 times 5 is 35. And I also know that I can write it the opposite way. So it's another way to study your multiplication facts as well. And then we can also, once we have our fact family, we know that we have 35, 5, and 7. So now we can do 35 divided by 7 equals 5, and 35 divided by 5 equals 7. So we now, in this little spot, okay, so by doing a multiplications tower, now I have all the fact families of 35, for example. So 7, 35, and 5. So it's just another way to practice your multiplication facts. So the first 5 would go from 7 to 35. So our answer for what are the first 5 multiples of 7, and you have to start with that number, so you count the number, 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35. So let's take a look at another example. So here we have the number 8. So if I'm going to go ahead and go through that, I might just say 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40. Now when we get to least common multiples, sometimes you may have to extend that past the first 5, but for our purposes in this example, just understanding what multiples are, we're just going to go 5 over. So remember, it's really like 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3, 8 times 4, 8 times 5, and you could keep going and so on. Okay? So there's a second example. Let's try one more example, and then we're going to review another game that you could play to practice multiples. So what happens if you have a double-digit number that you need to list the multiples of 19? It's easy to count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. It's not quite as easy to count 19 by 19, so 19, 38, 57, and so on. So here's a little hint. So we use something called compatible numbers. So if you look down here, I'm going to make a tower. So this is where we're coming back to our multiple tower. So the 19 is the same as plus 20 minus 1. Because if I had 20 minus 1, I'm going to get 19. But when we work with powers of 0 in compatible numbers, it makes it a lot easier. So if I do 19 plus 20, I can do that in my head to get 39, and then subtract 1 to get my next multiple. 38 plus 20 is 58, minus 1, 57. So we can kind of go quickly. 57 plus 20 is 77, minus 1 is 76. Okay, and 76 plus 20 is 96, minus 1 is 95. So as you can see, by using this strategy, I can write down the first 5 multiples a lot quicker then maybe going over on the side and doing 19 plus 19 and getting 38, and then 38 plus 19 equals 50. You know, so you could do it this way. It would just take a lot longer. Or you could be doing, okay, what's 19 times 4 for the next one? Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then end up with 76. So you can use these other strategies. They work. So you can do adding, you can do the multiplying by each level, or you can just count quickly by using numbers that are really easy to work with. Okay? So let's take a look at the game as well for multiples. We went over this once, but I'll throw it in here again as a little bit of extra practice. So if you remember, this game is called Flex 5, and it's in the back of your resource book, the game board template. But what you're going to do, and I didn't fill this all out because I'm going to kind of go over the directions a little quicker, and you can always read them. The directions are in the back. But basically, you're going to fill out this entire 5x5 grid, and you could do it on a whiteboard, you could do it on a piece of paper, or you can use the templates that are in the back of the book. And you're going to have all double-digit numbers. So you could have the lowest number, you know, would be like a 10. The biggest number would be a 99. Okay, all through here. You want to try to avoid prime numbers. Okay, so you don't want 17s or 23s or things like that. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to roll 2 dice and you're going to add them together. So if I rolled a 3 and a 4, 3 plus 4 is 7. So I'm going to look and I'm going to see, do I have any multiples of 7? So can I count by 7? 7, 14, 21, 28. Well, I see here's 1, 21, and I see here's a second one, 28. But you can only mark off 1 per turn. So I'm just going to start here and I'm going to mark that one down. So it's kind of like the old game that you might have played as a kid called Connect 4, where you try to get 4 in a row. This one you're trying to get 5 in a row. So you're going to use your game board. Your partner will use their game board. You can put whatever numbers you want on. They can put whatever numbers you want on. But when you roll, you mark on your board. When they roll, they mark off on their board. And you can only mark off 1 per turn. Okay? So your job is to be able to get 5 in a row. So it could go vertically, it could go horizontally, or it could go diagonally. So one of those, it's kind of like tic-tac-toe also. So you want to get 5 in a row across, diagonally, or up and down. All right, so that's just another review game to work on multiples. It'll also work on your facts, because you'll have to be thinking, oh, 7 times 4 is 28, for example, or 7 times 3 is 21. So it's also working on your math facts. All right, so that is the end of this lesson on multiples, and we're going to be talking about greatest common factor and least common multiple. So we'll be coming back to the last 2 lessons and looking at them a little bit differently and how they directly relate to fractions. Thanks for watching Soflex Math.